before the castle had a name, before stone learned its shape, before footsteps echoed where none now walk. There was a rise in the land above the River Tay, and a silence that listened carefully. Castles are not born, they are accumulated, layer by layer, life by life, loss by loss. And Castle Menzies has been accumulating for a very long time. The earliest stone that still speaks bears a date 1371. It sits above what was once the original entrance. A marriage stone set there by James Mackenzie to mark his union with Barbara Stuart, daughter of John Stuart, 3rd Earl of Atholl. The stone does not celebrate romance. It records alliance. Marriage in medieval Scotland was rarely about love. It was about survival, land, loyalty, and bloodlines that needed to continue breathing. The stone marks the moment when the Menzies family anchored themselves permanently to this land. From that moment on, the house began to grow. By the 16th century, Castle Menzies had taken on its recognisable form. A Z-plan castle designed not for comfort, but for defence. Its position was deliberate. It stood close to the old routeways through Highland Perthshire, watching who passed, who lingered, and who returned. For over 500 years, it was the seat of the chiefs of Clans Menzies, and no Highland seat existed without violence brushing close to its walls. The Highlands were never quiet. They were waiting. In 1598, the castle learned something new about betrayal. A man named John Dow MacWilliam, known also as MacGregor, broke into the castle under cover of night. His purpose was not plunder. He came to free a man from the dungeons, Donald Menzies. Chains were broken and the doors were forced. The castle's lower levels, thick with stone and shadow, ran with the sound of urgency. When Alexander Menzies of Weem, then owner of the castle, learned what had happened, he was not only angry, he was unsettled, because the rescued man was welcomed elsewhere. Taken in by John Murray of Tullibardine, accepted openly as if the castle's authority had meant nothing at all. From that night onward, the dungeons were never entirely silent again. Even now, visitors speak of pressure in the air below stairs, of a sense of waiting, of footsteps that do not pass. In January 1746, a tired young man rested here for 2 nights. History remembers him as Bonnie Prince Charlie, the Stuart pretender, marching toward Culloden toward the end of a dream. He slept beneath his roof, knowing the odds were against him. Those nights were quiet. It is said that some rooms never warmed properly afterward, that the air remembers the weight of the decisions made too late. Culloden followed, and so did silence, and grief settled into the stone like damp. On Sunday 21st April 1878, just after 7 p.m, the castle burned. A passer-by saw flames licking at the roof and raised the alarm. By the time help arrived, the house was already wounded. Sir Robert and Lady Menzies were away. Word was sent. They returned in haste. By 10 p.m, the fire was nearly extinguished. The damage seemed limited, but the shock was not. The excitement, the fear, the sudden brush with loss took something from Lady Menzies that could not be returned. She died the following month. Some places mark death loudly. This one did not. By the early 20th century, the castle's fortunes faded. In 1913, its contents were auctioned. In 1914, its papers were sold at Sotheby's, letter signatures, the written breath of history, scattered to collectors. In 1918, the castle and 11,600 acres were sold for £69,000. Stone remained. The people did not. When houses empty slowly, they do not forget who once filled them. She is not tied to a single date. The White Woman of Castle Menzies has been reported for generations, a pale figure drifting through corridors, sometimes seen near the upper rooms, sometimes on staircases, and sometimes simply standing. She does not scream. She does not give chase. She watches. Some believe she may be connected to a woman of the household, possibly someone bound by marriage rather than choice. Others suggest she may be linked to Lady Menzies herself. Lingering after grief shortened her time. There are those who think she predates them all. A woman from the older house, from before the fire, from before the records. The castle does not say. During a ghost tour, not in darkness, not in secrecy, something happened that many still struggle to explain. A guide stood with around 40 people gathered in one of the castle's halls. Without warning, a bright orb of light appeared in front of them. It did not hover. It shot straight down the hallway, fast, intentional, observed by everyone present. Days later, it happened again, this time in front of a smaller group. Same hall, same movement, same certainty. The castle had learned how to show itself. A paranormal investigator returned to Castle Menzies many times. He brought EVP equipment. He asked questions. And something answered. When he asked for names, pointing to portraits hanging on the walls, the voice identified them correctly, again and again. Paint does not speak. Stones do not lie, unless something is standing where it once stood in flesh. Castle Menzies does not perform. It does not frighten for attention. It remembers marriages carved in stone, rescues made in darkness, princes who slept poorly, fire that took more than timber, and rooms emptied and never refilled. And sometimes, when the house is quiet enough, it allows something to walk its halls again, not to scare, but to remind. Castles do not die when people leave. They change and they listen. And Castle Menzies has been listening for centuries, waiting for footsteps to return.